Thank you very much for watching. So tonight we're going to be starting lesson 8, which is very, very, very exciting. I had a few days of I needed to do other things, but I am back on this horse and we're gonna get this. I'm gonna be doing this for like 15, 20, 30 minutes. I do want to go to a Twitter space that I enjoy. I just, I really thought I was going to do a little bit of training during work today, and then I got really hungry, and I just won't move. I'm all the excuses, but I have a cat on my lap, so I'm going to see what we need to get set up with for the full stack part of this.
Script edition of this because there's nothing really new here. However, again, if you want to see TypeScript, feel free to jump into the GitHub repository associated with this course. All right, awesome. You have just completed lesson 7, the Hardhat Fund Me, and now it's time to move on to lesson 8, which is going to be our HTML/JavaScript Fund Me. You can find all the code for what we're about to go through, of course, on my GitHub repo. And for this section, we're now going to start to see some of the differences between Node.js, between that backend JavaScript and JavaScript in the browser, or front-end JavaScript. And if you come to the GitHub repo associated with this lesson, our main version will be using what's considered better front-end JavaScript, but we'll also have a Node.js edition as well if some of the front-end JavaScript is really confusing. And you'll see what I mean with some of those differences very soon. Now, people can programmatically interact with our smart contracts at any time. However, most of our users are not going to be developers. So we need to create a website. We need to create a user interface for them to interact with our smart contracts and interact with our protocols. And that's what this section is going to teach us. It's going to be an introduction to building these full stack, building these front ends on top of our smart contracts. Now, I wanted to show you what this is actually going to look like when we finish it, because here we're actually going to make our first front end, our first website using the blockchain, using Web3. And it's going to be an incredibly minimalistic website. As you can see right here, we're not going to have any styling. We're just going to show you how to get the functionality. And additionally, we're going to do a couple of things that aren't really recommended and are definitely not best practices. The reason we're going to do it like this is the same reason that in math class, before you learn the tricks for derivatives, you learn what a derivative actually is. We're teaching you it like this first so that you can understand what's going on the websites when you interact with them and when you work with them. We saw already with Faucet Touching the link where we can connect our wallets and we can work with the faucets. All decentralized applications have this website and have this setup where you connect your wallet and then you interact by clicking buttons, which make these function calls.
I don't like that you have to actually connect your wallet to all of these. It really should just be like you scan the wallet, but you have no actual interaction until you need it. I don't know. We preach security, but then we make everybody connect to each website and get scammed. So, until there's I'm definitely not telling every website my social security number. Why would I connect my wallet to every site? Just saying.
So the blockchain. And here's going to be our minimalistic website that does exactly that. So this section is just going to teach you what's going on under the hood so you can really understand how to build these applications at a professional level. So for this section, if you don't want to code along with me, you definitely don't have to. However,
I do want to code along, but I'm going to do what he's saying in React, and I'm also going to do it with Next because I don't like programming in React, but he's doing it in React, so I'll probably understand it better if I follow along.
However, coding along with me will definitely ingrain everything in your memory here. So here is what an application is going to look like. We have our website here, which is connected to our Hardhat, our local blockchain, but it's going to run exactly the same as if it was on a real testnet. The first thing you'll notice is in our MetaMask, we are not connected. And we'll go ahead and hit connect. And MetaMask will pop up asking us if we want to connect. We'll go ahead and connect to it. And now we'll be able to interact with our Hardhat Fund Me. You'll notice 2 buttons here are functions that we're familiar with. We have our withdraw function, which is going to be our withdraw function that we just created. And then of course, we also have our fund function here, where we push or we send Ethereum or Matic or whatever native blockchain token to our smart contract. So we can do it through this user interface. So once we're connected, if we want to see the balance, we can actually right click, hit inspect, come over to our console, and we'll print out to the JavaScript console the current balance of our smart contract. So nobody has funded this yet. We can come down, we can choose an amount we want to fund. So for example, maybe 0.1 ETH. We'll go ahead, we'll hit fund, MetaMask will pop up, we'll get a little console saying funding was 0.1, and it'll give us all the transaction details that we need to send 0.1 ETH to our smart contract. We can go ahead and hit confirm, and after it's been confirmed, after it's been mined on our local blockchain, if we hit get balance, we now see that it's 0.1. We could call fund again, we could have multiple funders, we could switch between different accounts and fund with different amounts, and we can see that funding amount increase. Then we can call the withdraw function. As long as we're the owner, we can confirm and we can pull out all the money out of our funding contract, and we'll hit get balance, and now we'll see the balance is reset to 0. So this is what we're gonna be building in. Are you ready? I sure am. Let's get into it. This is the introduction to building websites with Web3. All the information here is available in our GitHub repo, so feel free to follow along there. All right, so if you're in your Hardhat FundMe-Free Code Camp repo, we're still gonna wanna have this open as well, but we're also gonna wanna create a new Visual Studio Code for working with our new repo. So let's go ahead and cd down a directory. We'll type mkdir, we'll call this HTML FundMe Free Code Camp. We'll cd.
Is this just like plain HTML? I think I can actually go cd, okay, never mind. Folder to workspace is just, oh my god, I have so many things on the side menu now, but okay. Does he want to do create React app or?
Be into that. And we'll open this up by typing code, period. You can also do file open folder, but we just want to open this up in a new Visual Studio Code. New VS Code will pop up, but before we flip over to that, we do want to cd down, cd back into Hardhat FundMe Free Code Camp, because we are still going to use everything in here. We're still going to deploy a smart contract using this folder and using this repo. When you're building dApps or websites that are connected to the blockchain, you'll usually have two repositories or repos. One is going to be for the smart contract.
So this is true, but also untrue. If you're using something like Heroku, you are not going to have two repositories because then you will have to have two different dynos. And so it might logically be two different repos. It might just be like two that are in the same folder, or weird file structures where like you just have like a hard hat inside of your front end structure. So I don't think I agree with this. It depends on where you deploy it, how you deploy it, because a lot of professional places that use their own servers do use like microservices and separate repos for the front and the back, because the code gets crazy, y'all. But for someone that is trying to deploy things, it's usually better just to have them in one repo so that you can do it as cheaply and safely as possible.
Contracts like what we see here. This is our repo that has all the code for our smart contracts, and then you'll also have one for the front end / website. And it's going to be the combination of these two repos which makes up the full stack. So when people are talking about full stack, they're talking about the smart contracts, which is going to be our back end.
So yeah, in everything you have a choice. Like with Rails applications, it's backend heavy, like the Rails part is the backend. So you usually have like a front end folder and all of the JavaScript is like awkwardly put in there. For Next applications, it's like server side stuff, but for the truly backend stuff, I have a server folder, and that's where all of my Node code is, which is like not a part of the Next paradigm. So I would probably just have like a hard hat folder.
Plus our HTML / JavaScript / website stuff, which is going to be our front end. So smart contracts are the back end. HTML / JavaScript / website stuff is going to be our front end.
Are smart contracts the back end though? I guess they can be treated like they're the database, and that you're making like Lambda functions out to the, I guess, the back end, the server. It's not a server, but this can be treated like the database because it's the source of truth. It's also the business logic. Interesting.
So we have our back end already. And now we're going to build our front end. We want to keep this up because we're going to need it to test and interact with our front end. Awesome. So we have this new...
So for the longest time, full stack was MVC, right? Model View Controller. And so you have the models, which are the business layer. Then you have the views, which is the front end. And then you have the controller that routes the model and the views together. And so people kept trying to put logic in the controllers, but that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to just put all of the business logic in the models, but then like there's like a secret backend of like, well, how does the model interact with the database? So there's even like one level beyond that. And also models would get fat, like super fat. And so then they would also need to have, so in the view they're called helpers. I believe for the models, I think they're called domains and interactors. And so for the domains and interactors, they basically have the same purpose. So you're supposed to choose one to assist, like, think of like MVC as like the big, like, overarching paradigm design pattern. And then within that, those bubbles, like of the bubble of the model, there's ways that are acceptable to deal with like the magnanimity, like how big the problems that we're trying to solve are, and make them readable and understandable to fellow developers. So why am I even talking about this? Oh, I'm just saying that, like, if you're saying that the contract in hard hat is the back end, it feels more like an API call. I'm just trying to, maybe this full stack is not MVC as like I'm used to, or like with my experience with like Ruby on Rails being full stack, and Next being like the server side caching. But yeah, I would definitely put these in the same, like without even knowing, I would put these in the same repo and just like have the hard hat. Which at this point, I don't even remember how to install, like do hard hat, so we'll just do all of that again. But let's hear what they want us to do.
New folder now, HTML Fund Me Free Code Camp. Now this course is not a how to learn front end course. We are going to teach you a number of front end concepts, but if you want to learn a full traditional front end course, once again, you can check out Free Code Camp. They've got a ton of fantastic tutorials on teaching you front end. If you go ahead and follow along with me though, you'll definitely get a basic understanding of front end as well as front ends and how it relates to our smart contracts. Additionally, you don't have to do the front end parts or the full stack parts. If you only want to take this course to learn back end and to learn JavaScript and to learn Solidity and learn how to do these smart contracts programmatically, then you can absolutely skip these front end parts. However, if you want to learn to build exciting websites and you want to have other people other than developers interact with your protocols, you definitely want to watch this part. Now, before we actually jump in here and start writing our code, we need to understand what exactly is going on when we work with one of these websites that use the blockchain. So I actually made a video about this recently, so let's watch a segment from that really quick, just so that we can get up to speed with exactly what's going on behind the scenes of these websites that interact with the blockchain. All right, so here we are with a website or a front end on top of some smart contracts that we've deployed. It doesn't really matter what it is right now. This is typically the interface that you'll see, boiled down to a really, really minimalistic level. Typically, you'll see something like a connect function, right? In MetaMask or some other wallet connector thing will pop up. We'll hit next, we'll connect here. We might even say something like connected, and we can also execute functions. We can interact with our smart contracts, we can confirm, etc. Right? This is something you might see something like Aave, right? I'll hit connect on the Aave application. It'll say, hey, how would you like to connect? I'll choose MetaMask. I gotta change my MetaMask to mainnet, but you get the picture, right? This is a simple example of what that would look like. So what is actually going on in the browser when we connect? What is actually going on, and what do we actually need to do? We're gonna right click, hit inspect, and on the right side, we're gonna see our debugger here. Now, if we go over to sources on the top of our browser, you'll see a few things if you look down over here, right? We'll see this URL, right, which right now is going to be my localhost, and we'll also see MetaMask and Phantom and a whole bunch of other stuff. These other things that we see here are going to be what's injected from our browser extensions. The reason we see this MetaMask thing here is because I have MetaMask installed, right? The reason I see Phantom here is because I have the Phantom app installed. MetaMask, of course, being an EVM wallet and Phantom being a Solana-based wallet. Now, what happens when we have these extensions installed is they automatically get injected into a window object in JavaScript. And in fact, if we scroll down to here in the console, again, you can find console, you can click it here, you click anything up there, and we type in window, we'll see we have this big window object with all this stuff, right? This window object represents our window, basically, right? Now, if we scroll all the way to the bottom and we do window.ethereum, we also see an object here. Now, this window.ethereum object only exists if you have a MetaMask or MetaMask-like browser. Or if you want to look at some other Web3 wallet, you do window.solana, right? And we see this window.solana. Now, let's look at a browser that doesn't have MetaMask or Phantom installed. What do you think is going to happen in the window now? Let's go ahead, right-click, hit inspect. We'll go to the console. Now, let's see what's going on in here. If we go to sources, first off, we don't see that MetaMask or that Solana source here. And if we go to console, we still see window. Let me zoom in a little. We still see window here. But if I do window.ethereum, we get nothing. Or if I do window.solana, we also get nothing. So in order for our browsers to know that there's a MetaMask or that there's a Phantom, those extensions automatically add these to our window objects. And that's something that we can check for in our JavaScript. The reason these wallets are so important is built into them underneath the hood, they have a blockchain node connected to them. And in order to interact with the blockchain, we always need a node. And you might have seen URLs from Alchemy or Infura because you need them to interact with the blockchain. Alchemy and Infura are examples of third-party blockchains that you can interact with and basically rent, right? But you need them to create a provider or a node to send your transactions to. So you could do it in JavaScript, like something like this is the Alchemy documentation, where you take that Alchemy URL, you stick it into some object and use that to send your transaction. This is a way that you could do it in the back end. But on the front end, what you normally want to use is you just want to use the user's MetaMask or their Solana or their wallet as the main wallet. Now, there are a ton of other different types of wallets to connect, like Ledger, Mu, Coinbase, Wallet Connect, etc. And there are different ways to set those up. But they all do the same thing where they expose some URL. They expose some node under the hood. They give us that URL. They give us that provider. The way MetaMask does it is with window.ethereum. Boom, this is now our URL. This is now our connection. In fact, if you go up to your MetaMask, hit the little 3 dots, expand view, hit add network, and then just hit the X so we can get to networks, you can see all of these blockchains that I have in here all have an RPC URL. This is the HTTP RPC URL connection of the blockchain node that's running. I happen to have one running locally right now. All of these also have a node RPC URL, and you can actually see them right in your MetaMask, right? This is connected to Infura. These are all connected to Infura. It's all the exact same thing. MetaMask just has a really nice way of taking that URL, sticking it in the browser for us in this window.ethereum or window.solana, or whatever. So this is the main thing that we need to know. We always need a connection with the blockchain, and these browser wallets are an easy way to do that. Make sense? Great. Let's take this knowledge now and let's apply it. So in here, let's make a quick readme.md just so we can talk about what we're going to be making here. So in this section, we're going to be
vanilla. Oh no, we are doing Web3.
using raw HTML/JavaScript in conjunction with our smart contracts to build this website. Later on, we will use Next.js/React, which is a more modern stack, to build our websites here. But understanding how to do everything with HTML and JavaScript.
I mean, you will be using, well, I guess we'll both be using Next and React. I just don't want to deal with it professionally ever again. I don't. I don't like how it looks. I don't like the way it makes me think.
First is going to make our lives a lot easier come later on down the road. But as we know, all websites use HTML as kind of their scaffolding for what they look like.
So yeah, it's good practice to just do index in HTML. So if I press command and then clicked on it. So if he does lang, I'm not gonna like that's basically the basic setup of an HTML page.
So let's go ahead and create our HTML for our website. We'll call it index.html. And this is going to be the basic scaffolding or the basic bones of what our website is going to look like. Now in VS Code, if you go ahead and just type exclamation mark in index.html and you click the first thing that pops up, it'll automatically populate your code, your file here, with some basic.
Okay, wait, okay. Well, that's good to know.
HTML setup. If it doesn't do this for you, feel free to copy paste the basic setup from the GitHub repository associated with this course. We have our doc type HTML. We have some HTML tags telling us that everything in between here is going to be an HTML, which is great. However, for simplicity, we don't need most of this. So we're going to make this a little bit easier. We're going to delete this line, and this line. And we're just going to change the title to Fund Me App. And then inside of our body, we
what are these meta things happening? The char set is UTF-8, which is the encoding. I guess this is giving it compatibility with Internet Explorer. And this is defining that, which is why I never actually included that stuff. It's nice to have. It's probably good practice. I just saw something flash. Oh, okay. It's just, my phone is hanging up here like it usually does when I'm making my metaverse while streaming. But I think it was just a reflection on the... Yeah, that's what happened. Wow, sorry.
You can do something like hi or hello. And now we have the bare bones to create a website just with this. Now to show this on a website, we can do one of two things. If you are using Visual Studio Code, I'm going to recommend you install the extension Live Server. And it looks like this. And I'll have the extension ID for this extension.
Do I really need to have Live Server? Is it going to... Oh, I guess I do have Live Server.
Extension in the GitHub repository associated with this course. This is going to allow us to easily spin up an HTML website. So we'll go ahead and install this. And if you're not using Visual Studio Code, I'll show you a different one.
You just... And there's nothing there. And you just say, like... And this won't load right away, but you just refund and then use good.
In just a second. Once this is installed, you should have this little go live button at the bottom. And if you don't, you can always open up your command palette, which again, you can open up by hitting view command palette, and you can type in live server and just say open with live server. But we're going to just click this go live button.
I guess.
And it's going to say starting, and it's actually going to open up your browser with our index.html. We can actually see our website is being hosted on 127.0.0.1. This is known as the loopback or localhost endpoint. We're on port 5501. If you're not familiar with the ports, don't worry about that for now. But we have our index.html here. And if we change this to something like, what's good? We hit save. If it doesn't automatically refresh, we can come over here and refresh, and we can see that being reflected here. If you've never created a website before, you've essentially just done it. Congratulations. You might get this .vs Code folder. A .vs Code folder allows you to make settings specifically for the repo that you're working with for your code editor, for VS Code. But we're going to mostly ignore it for now. Now, if you're not using Visual Studio Code, what you can do is you can just run this in the browser. So one thing you could do is you could right-click it, and I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to hit Reveal in Finder, aka reveal where it's located, and you can just double-click it, and boom, now it's running right in your browser. Instead of pointing to your local host, it's going to be pointing directly to your local file path. Now, one final version that we could do that I'm going to highly recommend you don't do, but it's another option. We're actually going to download a package for you using Node.js, which allows to serve up HTTP. And we're going to install it the exact same way we've installed our other packages. We can do yarn add --dev HTTP -server. And you may still want to add it anyways, but now we'll get some Node modules for this HTTP server package. We'll get a package.json and of course a yarn.lock as well. And what we could do is we can stop this down here, stop that live server. And if we go back to our website, refresh, it'll now be blank. And we can run yarn HTTP server. And this will do the exact same thing and if we come over and we refresh, we'll see what's good. Now this one is a little bit more finicky, and after you make a change, like, hey, what's good? You might have to close it and then reopen it and then refresh. So I do recommend that if you're on Visual Studio Code, you definitely just use this little go live button because it'll reflect your changes a lot nicer. So let's go ahead and hit the go live button. Hey, what's good pops up. Okay, cool. Our HTML is working perfectly. So the title, of course, is going to be the FundMe app, which we see up here in the title section. So let's update this HTML so that it has those buttons and it can actually connect and work with our blockchain and work with any blockchain. Something else that you can do in HTML is you can actually write JavaScript inside your HTML. And the way we can do that is by doing this script tag, and then we'll do a closing script tag. And anything inside here, inside of our script tags, is going to be JavaScript. So I can do something like console.
Why would you not put the script tag down here where it belongs?
Console.log hi with a bunch of exclamation marks. I'm going to save it. We'll go back to our front end. We're going to right click. We'll hit inspect. We'll go to the console and we can see that hi printed out. We refresh. We can see that hi consistently printed out. Hi from script tag. We'll save it. We'll move back. And we see hi from script tag printed out. I know it's a little bit small, so let me zoom in. All right, great. So we can type our JavaScript in here, and it's inside these script tag is where we're going to write our JavaScript to write the functions that our front end is going to interact with. Now, as we saw before, in this little console, we can check for window.ethereum to see if MetaMask is installed. And again, a lot of what we're working with is actually right in the MetaMask documentation. If you go to their basic section. They talk a little bit about the provider, which is this window.ethereum. You can read how to actually interact directly with MetaMask in the MetaMask documentation as well. Now, using window.ethereum is just one of the ways we're actually going to connect to the blockchain. There's actually multiple ways because there's multiple different kinds of wallets out there. But for now, we're just going to pretend that window.ethereum and MetaMask is the only extension out there. So what we want to do is we want to check to see if this window.ethereum exists. This is the first thing that we should be doing, because if this doesn't exist, this means that they can't connect to the blockchain. One of the first things that we're going to want to do.
I feel like we should be doing like document. So we went live, which means we inspect this. Console here. Okay, so I am not making this up, but it is jQuery. Which pretty sure we're not doing. Just want to make sure that we can get along. If kidding me, right? I need to log into MetaMask? I do need to. Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure this was working, how he's explaining it. Wow, this lesson's gonna go by so fast. Of course, I shouldn't say anything until we're like there. But, I think I'm gonna leave soon. I know this was a short one, but I wanted to get back onto the wagon, and I'm getting tired, and I want to do that thing. So we all make life choices.
Is we're going to want to check to see if that exists. So we can do something like if. We can say type of window.ethereum does not equal undefined. Then we'll do console.log. I see a MetaMask.
So a double exclamation point. It just checks for the existence.
So now if we save, we come back to our front end, I see a MetaMask. I've got a Google Chrome up without MetaMask that if we look in the console and we hit refresh at the same URL where our live server is running, we don't see that I see a MetaMask because it doesn't see a MetaMask. We can do else console.log, no MetaMask. We'll refresh, we still see I see a MetaMask where we have a MetaMask. You don't have to open up a browser with that one, but we see no MetaMask for Chrome because it doesn't see a MetaMask. Now, what we could do is we could automatically try to connect to MetaMask if we see that there is a MetaMask, right? Remember how before, when we hit that connect button, MetaMask popped up and said, are you sure you want to connect? What we can do is, and you can find this in the MetaMask docs, we can run this ETH request accounts method, which is basically going to be how we connect our MetaMask. Now, this is specified by a new EIP, and in older documentations and in older tutorials, you might see ethereum.enable, which essentially does the exact same thing. So what we could do here is we could say window.ethereum.request, and we could put method eth request accounts, and we'll save that.
Okay, so we are here. So window.ethereum dot request accounts. It's window.ethereum dot request
put method eth request accounts, and we'll save that. Now, if we go back to our browser, you'll actually see MetaMask go ahead and pop up and say, let's connect. So we can choose any.
Okay, well that's not waiting for any kind of user input. And I'm also not signed in. So we will stop here. I will get MetaMask started before I live stream tomorrow. And we will get to this part, or the next part. We'll probably get through the plain HTML stuff really quickly. MetaMask is really just not that bad. I implemented this one time. Basically, my first interaction with Web3 was just using the MetaMask docs and copying and pasting them and them working. So I will talk to you all later, and I will see you in